quality, you know?
Whilst Motown was putting inner-city Detroit on the world map, a group of white, working-class suburban kids, known as the Motor City Five, were also hoping to take the world by storm.
We came out of the suburbs. We all came from families that were working-class people. Like my father started at Ford's in the 1940s. Our vision was to create a music that hadn't been done before. And Chuck Berry probably was the main influence on the MC5.
I stood up on the stand with my eyes shut tight. Didn't want to see anybody. Feeling happy, having a good time. Now, hey, do it all right, do it all right. Do it all right, do it all right.
England, of course, was the focal point. The British first wave had revolutionized popular culture. The Americans were struggling to keep up. You know, the big American acts all of a sudden seemed hopelessly square, you know. And then New York has always had its power, and Los Angeles, of course, is the other center, the other pole of the American recording industry. But no one ever considered Detroit as part of that equation.
You know, they were downriver boys. They were guys who lived in the disused parts of Detroit, the industrial parts. And really, when you grew up in Detroit in those areas, you had one of two ways to go. College wasn't the option. It was usually, were you going to work the line? Were you going to work in a tool and die shop? And how many fingers were you going to lose by the end of your career?
The MC5 were managed by John Sinclair, a middle-class bohemian whose artist commune was based in the heart of the inner city.
I wanted to come here to be around the jazz players and the beatniks and the dope fiends and the people who were not normal. The young white people that came here on purpose. They came here to find urban adventure, you know. The black people had not shared in the largesse of America at this time, and yet it was right there beyond their reach. They wanted that. Whereas we were the children of people who had gotten the payoff and found that, so what? You know, it wasn't what we were looking for. We weren't looking for a life of total safety and ease. We wanted some danger.
He had great weed, just fantastic. And he had a great record collection. Basically, we just wanted to hang out, you know, and be cool like him.
Sinclair was kind of like an agent provocateur. He was just a guy who knew how to grab headlines, and he was a big, bearded presence, and physically, he was like a guru.
Sinclair took the MC5 from the blue-collar suburbs into the heart of the city, getting them a residency at Detroit's psychedelic Grandee Ballroom.
The music scene in Detroit was born really at the Grandee Ballroom. That was like our petri dish. You know, we put the bacteria in there, we watched it multiply.
we would come to the Grandy, take acid, and freak out with the MC5, you know. It was very far out. And these kids would come here from this suburban context where they had seen the Beatles on television and they thought that was great. They would come here and this would be a place that was a whole different world. Maybe they'd get laid.
Oh, you would walk in, you know, you would park, and it was a very dangerous neighborhood. So first off, if you made it through the doors intact was kind of an accomplishment. It was like an adult playground, perhaps. People would be dancing, and then at the back, there'd be a platform. They'd be doing a light show. Lots of people of all sorts, all ages, different costumes, different kinds of dress. It was freedom.
I had a tremendous amount of atmosphere. It was the perfect venue. It was not on the street level, it was upstairs. And here was this fantastic room with these archways and a promenade around, and a stage at one end, and it was kind of big and cavernous and mysterious. And it was just full of atmosphere. And we knew that the place had been used in previous decades as a ballroom, you know, for swing dancing and, you know, jitterbugging, and, you know, it was so it had all that kind of charisma about it. And here we were in the mid '60s, you know, bringing something completely new to it. It was our palace.
And I'm having the warmest memories of spectacular sex acts performed in various parts of this building. Very warm memories.
Whilst the inner city was a place of adventure for the white kids, conditions for the city's black population were becoming intolerable. Trouble was on its way.
I mean, we had a police crew called the Big Four. 4 big white guys that rode around in a big 4-door sedan. Used to jump out of the car all the time, threatening black people standing on the corner.
Firebomb busting all around me.
And they jump out and say, go home. Hell, we say, we at home, you go home.
In our mind, it was inevitable that there would be a riot by black people in Detroit because the conditions were so bad.
I could hear the people screaming.
Because when Detroit was going to blow, it was going to blow.
On the 23rd of July, 1967, Detroit erupted into riots.
I paced around to find it out.
It was the hatred of the police department that sparked that. I mean, the fact that they decided to raid an after-hour joint and arrest everybody. I mean, an after-hour joint was part of our life here in this city.
Taking my wife and my family, and those chandeliers.
This is the street that the police brought their cruisers at and parked out here to arrest all those people at. And that's where the first bricks were thrown, right here, and then began to spread on down 12th Street that way, and then Linwood, Dexter, you know, involved the whole city before it was over.
Wow, the Motor City's burning. Ain't a thing that I can do.
The rioting lasted 5 days, during which 43 people were killed, 33 of whom were black.
Everybody sort of thought we were going to have a riot because there had been racial issues that had mounted up, and killings and aggravations by some of the police. This place was terrorized, and there had to be a change.
And it wasn't only the city that would be changed forever. Detroit's music would be profoundly affected by the riots. Motown was dragged into this new reality when one of Martha Reeves' old hits became the unofficial anthem of the rioters.
The riots happened And Marvin Gaye, who has been known to write revolutionary songs, this is prior to what's going on, thought if he sang a song about dancing in the street, then they would stop fighting in the street. It was to quench the riots, not to incite them. The civil rights movement had escalated. The riots had arrived. Detroit had changed. It was no longer this idyllic little city. We could no longer sing about the birds and the bees because that was not really what was on our minds. The music had to change, and it did.
And the Motown artist who would later become acclaimed for his social conscience would be Marvin Gaye, whose 1971 masterpiece, What's Going On, was a record that Berry Gordy tried to bury.
Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying.
After the riots, the factories closed down. They closed down work, so no one had any work. So now you have poverty. Now people are grasping for jobs, for money, for this, for that. Drugs come into the picture. So much was destroyed.
We don't need to escalate. Oh, it's not the answer, for only love can conquer.
Although the Motown sound had finally begun to diversify, the label had outgrown the crumbling city of Detroit. Berry Gordy had become interested in making films with Diana Ross, and Hollywood beckoned. In the wake of the riots, Motown would ship out west, leaving a gaping hole in the city.
Motown went to L.A. I was sad as hell because I wanted that dream of Detroit to stay around, but when they got Lady Sing the Blues, Berry's eyes were set on a bigger picture. And he didn't realize at the same time he still had all of us. We kept Motown going with the new version.
And the white music scene would also be affected by the unrest. The MC5 lived within the riot zone and were caught up in the chaos.
I was exhilarated. I wanted to overthrow the system, and I thought, man, they're taking it to the max. They're going up against them, you know. We're going up. I mean, I felt like I was part of this.
Law and order have broken down in Detroit, Michigan. Pillage, looting, murder, and arson have nothing to do with civil rights.
We lived right in the middle of the ghetto. Our sympathies were with the rioters completely, against the police. We hated the police. Hated the police.
The Detroit police were becoming like the Gestapo. Seriously. They were coming looking for it.
Early one morning, the police broke the door in and arrested us all, and they found a bow and arrow in the house. And they claimed that we were snipers shooting the police with bows and arrows. So, okay, take them all in. I walk out on the street, and there's a United States Army tank on my street pointing its big gun at my door. This is on my street in my city.
In the face of relentless police oppression, the MC5 decided to form their own revolutionary group. They called themselves the White Panther Party.
The White Panther Party was just kind of a universal way of saying, you know, hey, you know, let's take this shit over.
I admired the Black Panther Party. To me, they were heroes. That these guys were from the neighborhood, and we all did. And so they had a 10-point program. So we decided we'd have a 3-point program.
Point 2 is total assault on the culture by any means necessary, including rock and roll, dope, and fucking in the streets.